ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the A-26C-45 Invader. The Invader is a rank 4 battle rating 6 premium bomber attacker for the US line, and yes, I do classify this as a premium. It is an aircraft that is only available via special means. It is not available in the standard tree under normal circumstances, so yes, it's a premium aircraft. However, it does not carry a premium bonus in either credits or research points, and the aircraft does not come fully unlocked when you finally get access to it. The A-26 Invader actually has an incredible history if you start reading it up. It was first deployed in the Pacific Theatre, and it wasn't liked by the units that received it at the time, and in fact it was rejected as an operational aircraft. However, it was received very, very well by the units that received it in the European theatre, flying around 12,000 missions there with quite a success rate, only losing around 65 aircraft and shooting down 7 aircraft in the process. It was among the first aircraft to be deployed into the Korean War, so as a result it was one of the first aircraft to drop bombs on North Korean positions, and it was also famous for being the absolute last aircraft to fly a combat bombing mission over North Korea before the armistice was signed, completing the mission only a little over 20 minutes before the signing of the treaty. At some point it became a popular aircraft with the CIA, running clandestine missions in locations all around the world. Outside of US control, it was an incredibly popular aircraft with many countries worldwide, and actually remained in service all the way up till 1980. Not bad for an aircraft that was considered by many to be a failure of a design. However, to be fair, most of the missions that it ran in its lifetime of service were not actually bombing or attacking roles. Sadly, in War Thunder there are no missions in which you can deploy or recover Spec Ops troops from behind enemy lines, so we are forced to just do the bombing and attacking thing. And for that, the aircraft is actually quite good, although it feels both familiar and strange to fly. Let me explain. The A-26 is effectively an advancement on the A-20G that you encounter much earlier in the War Thunder line at a vastly lower battle rating. And it flies and does its roles in a very similar fashion. The only thing you really need to get used to is that the forward-facing machine guns are mounted on the wings in the Invader, where they're mounted in the nose on the A-26. Now, the Invader is a little bit faster and it is a little bit more nimble, but it's not a huge change, so in that way it feels very familiar to use. But of course, this isn't a battle rating 3 aircraft, this is a battle rating 6 aircraft. The Invader will face jets, and regularly. Down at the low end of the US tree, the A-20G and the B-25s that are sort of its replacement in terms of progression in the tree, are both fast, durable, have a lot of firepower and a lot of defensive firepower, and are facing against aircraft that aren't always a whole lot faster or a whole lot better armed than the A-20G or the B-25 as well. However, at battle rating 6 you are almost always at the bottom of the food chain, so you need to be a lot more alert and take opportunities where they arise. Like Spitfire suffering from a little bit of tunnel vision chasing down another A-26 that's in the area, and allowing themselves to get blindsided, for example. So what you have here is an aircraft that, while it does have superior performance to the planes that came before, flies in a very similar manner to the A-20G and the B-25 that you got used to much earlier on in your progression through the US tree. However, it flies in an environment where everything is faster and usually more heavily armed than it is. While you'll see quite regularly in War Thunder battles the B-25 pilots and especially A-20G pilots that forget what they're flying is supposed to be an attacker bomber, and they turn it into a heavy fighter. You can do the same here, but it is much more difficult and a lot more risky to try it. What I found is that when flying the A-26, I've completely changed the way that I fly the aircraft, despite it being so familiar. For example, unless something like that Spitfire really opens up the door, I will not try and engage in air-to-air combat in this aircraft. As a general rule, I try and use it as a bait aircraft, which is precisely what I'm doing now. Shooting down that Spitfire and destroying a whole bunch of critical ground targets caught the attention of the enemy team, and we've got 3 Spitfires coming in on this location, or at least 3, there could be more. So, rather than trying to engage them, or trying to run back to base, instead I'm going to run right out to the side towards these 3 ships. Now, the AAA off ships is somewhat ridiculous. It is definitely good, although cargo ships would have been better. For some reason in War Thunder, cargo ships have better AAA than any military vessel in the game. Because Gaijin. Anyways, the AAA off ships is generally pretty good. Good enough at the very least to give pause to the Spitfires while I reposition myself to make a run back towards the mainland. Now, the goal here is, I'm going to circle once and then I'm going to try and rush towards the fighters on my team. The idea being to pass back underneath the enemy aircraft and drag them down, bringing them down to sea level. Now, this could get me killed, but it will also put the enemy Spitfires, an aircraft that lords its altitude above most American squadrons and wins most of its battles because of that, on the deck underneath the American aircraft, meaning we may actually get a win for the team. Now, you might say this is the most obvious baiting in the world, and you're absolutely right. I completely agree. This is incredibly obvious baiting. It's not anything that is really that tactical. This map doesn't allow that many options. And yet, despite being so obvious that the only possible way I could make what I'm up to any clearer to the enemy team would be by going to all chat and actually directly telling them what I'm doing, it still works 9 out of 10 times. A little over 450 kilometers an hour heading back towards the island, ready to start bombing and ground attacking all over again, and the 2 Spitfires that were at over 10,000 feet just a few moments ago, sitting at under 1,000 feet just to my 6 as Allied aircraft are flying overhead heading towards them. Now, if one of those Spitfires was to commit itself to try and attack me, at 450 kilometers an hour its rate of close is not going to be incredibly fast in comparison to what it would be against, say, a B-17, or a B-29 for that matter. However, the defensive armament on the A-26 is actually quite good, so this slow rate of close plus the good 50 caliber defensive armament the aircraft carries means that aircraft that get behind it can very quickly be dealt with. Although, of course, it is better if you don't have to do that and don't put it into a situation where you need to defend it in the first place. It's better to be attacking targets and not get detected at all. Unfortunately, that's one of the biggest problems with the preparation for the invasion of Hokkaido map, which is actually Guam. The island is so thin, and the corridor where ground targets for you to actually attack, at least the meaningful ground targets, are laid out, is so small that predicting where the enemy aircraft is incredibly easy for the enemy team. They knew exactly where my invader was the second I released my first bomb and took a kill. This makes any of the Pacific maps nightmarish for attacker bombers, and unfortunately it's actually one of my biggest complaints with this aircraft. It seems that Pacific maps is all it gets most of the time. But still, we work with what we have. Now, at this point, the aircraft is still not fully upgraded. In fact, it's only got a couple of upgrades on it. After unlocking the aircraft, I basically shelved it due to spam. There was just far too many of them in the air for me to bring this out and be effective. But the spam seems to have died down now, so I'm beginning to enjoy the aircraft again, and I'm really enjoying bringing it out. It's actually made me think that perhaps I need to bring out more attackers from now on. I've basically covered fighters to death over the last 3 years. I think maybe it's time that I gave attackers and bombers a little bit more attention than they've been receiving on the channel. So, quickly ninjaing in a couple of last minute ground kills, and that's the end of the match, so let's go through to the results. So, the results for the match. Second place for the team with 1 air kill and 10 ground kills. Rewards were Final Blow and Anti-Mech. 61,944 Silver Lions, and 3,228 research points. And as you can see, I finally managed to get the radiator unlocked on the aircraft, so that should give you an idea exactly how many upgrades this plane has at this time. And that's the A-26 Invader. Now, of course, upgrades will increase the aircraft's performance. The numbers seem to vary from aircraft to aircraft, but it's usually somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 20% performance increase across the board with all upgrades applied. However, that's not going to be enough against some of the aircraft that it faces, actually in fact against most of the fighters that it's going to face. So I really doubt the overall way or style of flighting, the tactics used on the aircraft, is going to adjust much even with those upgrades. Those upgrades are just going to make it easier to pull the tactics off. But regardless, it is a fantastic little aircraft. I really do enjoy flying it, and it is a relief to finally have it in my collection. For those of you who don't know the history of the A-26C in War Thunder, originally this aircraft was only available to a select few who bought a very particular model of gaming laptop in parts of Europe and Russia some 4 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago there was an event to unlock the aircraft, but it was obscenely high in the kill order. It required something in the vicinity of 650 kills in order to be able to unlock the aircraft, and I missed out on it by 13 kills. Since that event, it has not been available to unlock at all for anybody. The PlayStation players got access to an A-26 as a premium, but it wasn't this particular A-26. Of course, just a couple of weeks ago, Gaijin ran the second competition they've ever run to make this plane available, and it was a relatively easy one to complete. Anyway, ladies and gents, I'm going to call this one here. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to click like if you did enjoy the video, subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more. Until next time, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.